appeared to Abraham on the way to Sodom to punish the people of Lot, and when Abraham taking them to be mortals and as his guests prepared a feast for them, they disclosed their identity and said that they, the angels, neither eat nor drink. Verse 29-32. According to the well-known commentator Kashshaf, once the first holy Imam Ali ibn Abu Talib along with a group of some poor men of the believers, while going to the Holy Prophet passed a party of the hypocrites who seeing Ali and those with him winked to each other mocking at them. Those hypocrites said, "We saw today the bald-headed one. Ali was bald in the front portion of his head, and mocked at him." Ali had not even reached the Holy Prophet. The messenger angel Gabriel revealed these verses, condemning the conduct of the hypocrites and praising Ali. Ms. According to Ibn Abbas, by those who are sinful, the reference is to the hypocrites, and by those who. Verse 1 refers to what will happen to the sky at the dawn of the day of judgment, i.e. when the sky will be rent asunder, to manifest the state of reality. Verse 2 the heavens with their greatness and limitless extent only await the command of the Lord which shall be carried out. Verse 3 the earth will be changed from its global form to a flat leveled plain. Verse 4 all the things, minerals, metals and the bodies of the innumerable generations buried in it, i.e. all its contents, will be thrown out, i.e. the earth will vanish with all its contents destroyed, and reduced to nothing. In this verse in 99, 2 points out the time for the disintegration, i.e. when the earth's productive capacity gets exhausted, and this principle is applicable to all growing and evolutionary movement in every part and particle of the universe. AP. Verse 6 the path of righteousness, i.e. the path of those who earnestly wish to get nearer to the Lord, is full of toil and misery. It is the godly ones that scorn and forego the pleasures of this life and choose the life of want and difficulties. Those who toil in the sincere hope of meeting the Lord, are assured of their success so that they may not fall victims to dejection and give up their quest for Him. Verse 7 those who suffered, and yet led pure lives of faith and righteousness and suffered miseries in the way of the Lord 10 and yet toiled continuously to earn His pleasure, for which they avoided the pleasures of this life and chose for themselves and remained contented with the miseries and sufferings. They avoided evil in spite of its strong attractions and earned goodness at all costs. Verse 8 the reckoning will be effected without the least difficulty. The Holy Prophet said that he who has these 3 qualities shall meet a very easy accounting at the judgment. He said, 1. To provide the one who hath deprived thee of the legitimate due. 2. Meet the one who shuns you. 3. Pardon him who has been unkind to you. Verse 9. To his people, i.e. to his kith and kin and the others spiritually on the same level with him without the restriction of the age, i.e. preceding or succeeding him in time. Verse 10. The disbelievers and the wicked will have their hands tied at their back, and hence they will be given their records from behind them. He would wish that he had not been given any record at all. 11. Verse 11. The wicked would wish for death and annihilation once for all, but they will be in a state which will be neither life nor death. 12. Verse 13. While in this life the wicked one was happy, rejoicing and enjoying the pleasures of the world among his people, i.e. relatives and friends, without any regard to the pleasure or the displeasure of the Lord. Verse 14. Man is led into the evil ways of life, mostly of his self-complacence and self-conceit, and getting himself intoxicated of the enjoyment of his carnal desires in his lower life, forgetting his personal responsibility and his accountability on his return to the Lord in the ultimate. He must remember the inevitability of his return to Him. Verse 15. Man forgets that the Lord is ever watchful of him for his motives as well as his deeds. Verse 16. The beautiful and wonderful show of the radiance of the sun in the evening, which is the work of nature. The true story, but the story runs as follows. He related the following story. God had sent an Abyssinian as his apostle to the Abyssinians. The apostle had to fight the forces of the king whose name was Zu-Nuwas, who was a pagan who claimed himself to be a deity and wanted the people to worship him. Most of the companions of the apostle were killed. The king took the apostle and his surviving believers as captives and gathered them along with the followers of the apostle at a place. A huge pit was prepared with fire burning in it, and it was announced that all those who believed in God, which the apostle claimed to have been sent from, may throw themselves into the burning pit. A believer woman with a small baby in her lap also came to fall into the pit, but as she came near the fire, her love for her baby held her back. The baby by God's command cried out to its mother saying, "Mother, jump thou along with me into the fire, for this is too small a test in the way of the Lord." The woman jumped into the fire along with her baby. But by God's command, the apostle, all the believers, the woman and the baby, were safe in the pit, unhurt with the fire. MB gives a detailed note of a story quite similar to the above. A question would arise in the mind of any intelligent one, that will there not be a requital or accounting for inflicting persecution and causing the worst miseries and tortures to those poor souls for being faithfully attached to the holy al-bayt of the Holy Prophet? How hundreds and thousands of men, women and children were persecuted and put to death for being the Shias of Ali, and how many were asked to pay a merciless tax for visiting the shrine of the holy Imam Hussein and of the martyrs of Karbala. There are several anecdotes of the believers being mercilessly persecuted and burnt by their opponents, and the scene being observed and enjoyed by the spectators. Quran's scope is to condemn not only the persecution of the believers but even those who witnessed such cruelties and did not attempt to prevent and object to it, and this was a warning to the people of Mecca who were persecuting the Muslims for their embracing Islam, and the same would apply to the persecution and massacre and the ruthless treatment of the believers who firmly adhered to the cause of the al-bayt. This is why in the Ziyarat it is said, "La'anallahu umatan zalimat kamal la'analhu umatan samiyat. Beza alika wa raziat beh. Cursed be the people who did injustice to you, and cursed be the people who heard this and were pleased with it." AP. Verse 21. This verse condemning the disbelievers who belie the divine origin of Quran. It asserts that it is the glorious Quran. The original of it is in the well-guarded tablet which has 56, 78 is, Kitab al-Maknun, i.e. the hidden book, which in 1339 have been termed as the Kitab, i.e. the mother book, and that is which is not within the reach of anyone save those who are purified by God. 33 vid 56, 79 and this is what is termed as Ilyun, in 83. 19-22. AP. Verily scheme they against the truth, a scheme. 86. 15. And I too do scheme against them, a scheme. 86. 16. So respite thou the disbelievers, let them alone a while. 86. 17. Commentary. Verse 1. The mention of the night visitant is a mystic expression. There are various interpretations of the word Tariq. Some take it to be a particular star, some say it is the morning star, some say Sirius, and some take it to be the star in general, for the stars shine in the nights, all through the year. Tariq, lit. Hammering, figuratively has been used for a visitor at night who knocks at the door by a hammer hanging at it. Furthermore, it has been used for a constant traveler who hammers or tramples the ground at the time. Here as expressed in verse 3, is used to mean a piercing or shining star. According to a tradition from the al-bayt, it refers to a star which traverses all the 7 spheres above, one after another, and returns, which means, it crosses all the orbits of the planets. Thus, it could be true only of a comet which crosses all orbits, and in this sense, it can be applied figuratively to the Holy Prophet whose piercing and radiating mind traverse all the spheres of the universe, physical and spiritual. Vide verse 4, the Holy Prophet with his penetrating and piercing spirit, would be over all vigilant, over and above every soul. This is in conformity with all the verses of Quran which assert the Holy Prophet as a universal witness over all witnesses. 5. AP. Verse 2. The query itself suggests the mystic nature of the reference and meaning of it having been kept a secret, and all interpretations being mere conjectures. Verse 4. It is only said that it is the star of piercing brightness. It is not said which star, for it is a figurative reference to the great personality. Some commentators take the reference to the first holy Imam Ali ibn Abu Talib, for he used to get in communion with the Lord in getting himself absorbed in the all-divine, in his prayers, that Salman and the others had more than once taken him even to be dead. Besides, Ali used to get out in the night enquiring about the needs of the poor and the helpless and help them. It is said that even soul has been preserved or guarded or protected by a number of angels, but for this grace of the Lord no soul would be able to escape the various kinds of the calamities which the body and the soul faces in this world. The first holy Imam Ali says, "It is no wonder if a man dies, it is a wonder, how he is kept alive, for so many are the dangers to his existence, for there are in every element things which can cause his death. Man is living amidst innumerable dangers and yet he is kept alive. It is nothing but God's will that makes man live or die." Verse 6. The sperm issued from between the back and the ribs. 6. Verse 7. The stimulant for the discharge of the matter is generated in the brain and is conveyed through the spinal cord, continued with the medulla oblongata. The kidneys thus pissing from the back from between the ribs and the hip bones. The ejected water referred to here, with a mention of backbone, the spinal cord and ribs evidently refers to the part which the breast and the spinal cord play a joint role in the process of the meeting of the sperm and the ovum, which result in the formation of the embryo. AP. Verse 8, c. 85, 12, 36, 77, 82, particularly 36, 81, wherein is given the greatest argument, what? Is not he who created the heavens and earth, able to create the like of them? Yes, he is the creator of all the knower. Single quote. He who created the physical body with all its psychic forces, with the wonderful harmony in the working of the various kinds of forces, can bring back the same at his will. God, who caused the union of the sperm and the ovum, out of which the most complicated form of an organic being comes into evidence, is naturally able to make a higher complicated soul to proceed towards its maker by undergoing trial after trial to unfold the possibilities endowed in it. AP. Verse 9. When asked what are the secrets that will be disclosed, the Holy Prophet said, all your deeds good and bad, open and hidden. Ms. Verse 10. On the day of judgment, which will be the day of reality and truth, none shall have any help from anyone else. Everybody for himself. None shall bear the burden of the other. 7. Verse 11. Raj, i.e. return. Here the return of the same action or function again and again in a prescribed order or cycle, the return of the monsunic functions and their relevant changes in the working of the heavenly bodies and the consequent effects on the earth. Though the firmament above is always the same, yet the change in its function takes place quietly, secretly, smoothly and regularly, without any voice of anyone else in the matter save the will of the Almighty Author of the universe. The revolving and the change in the activities of the heavenly bodies goes on constantly, and it is ever true to its center. It indicates the rotational and revolutionary nature of the heavenly bodies. AP. Verse 12. The earth is made amenable to opening itself or yielding to the gushing out of the springs and the sprouting of the vegetation, necessary for every kind of life on earth. Refers to the recipiency and the productivity of the earth. AP. Verse 13. The Holy Quran is the final word of God, complete and perfect, to be current for all times until the end of the world for the human race as a whole. Verse 14. It is not a collection of mere tales of the ancient people as imagined by the disbelievers. 8. Verse 15. It is a reference to the scheming activities among the disbelievers and the hypocrites. The immediate reference is said to be to what the pagans of Mecca did in their preparation for the Battle of Badr. But the reference has the common application also that the disbelievers will always exert to the utmost, plotting to thwart the spread of the truth or to make it totally extinct. God undertakes to himself to fight the disbelievers and hypocrites, i.e. the enemies of the truth. This indicates the continuous effort against Islam and the perpetual help from God to save and spread it. 9. Being endowed with the various faculties and then being endowed with the conscience. Here the reference is to the perfect proportion in which everything is given to man. Verse 3. Everything has been provided in the degree essential to suit the need of every individual. Everything in the world has been controlled by fixed laws of growth and decay, and affected the necessary guidance through instincts, conscience, revealed scriptures, apostles and the holy Imam. The divine guidance is according to a planned process. AP. Verse 5. In the decay of the vegetable world, a regular resurrection of the decayed matter has also been ordained, by preserving the seeds and the roots to keep the supply of the stuff continuous. Verse 6. The Holy Quran was revealed in stages 8 to facilitate people learning the truth, gradually leaving the margin of time for the people to remember each commandment so that the knowledge of it may have a gradual growth. This indicates that the Holy Prophet was divinely endowed with the wonderful memory to remember the very text of the Word of God even though it was revealed to him only once. There is another aspect of the meaning, tansa, i.e. forget or forsake. It may mean that the Holy Prophet was divinely protected against any forgetfulness. The Holy Prophet was made to read, by God and the divine agencies. Hence, he never forgets. The tradition which indicates that the Holy Prophet while conducting a congregational prayer, forgot performance of certain necessary parts of the prayer and it was brought to his notice by some of the praying ones behind him is totally spurious and against this verse. Some would take the exception in the next verse 7 as the proof of the possibility of the Holy Prophet forgetting his duty, but this would affect the Holy Prophet being the absolute example to be followed by mankind. Therefore, exception here is the same as the exception in 11:108, which is just to assert that everything depends on his will whether he exercises it or not, is a different matter, or the exception refers to the orders which later on have been abrogated by him. Otherwise, the Holy Prophet is saved from forgetting his duties. AP. Verse 8. The declaration is prophetic about the easy march of Islam from success to success, in its spread. Verse 9. Commentators consider, here as to means certainty and not conditional, but it may also mean, when, or, if, denoting condition but in the sense that reminding should be when there is some use, either for or against. It would mean that reminding should correspond with the capacity of the audience either to accept or to reject it. AP. Verse 13. This is the state in which the wicked in hell will be committed to. There will be no death in hell, for death means the extinction of life, i.e. the state of absence from a state. The sinner will be there in hell, suffering the consequences of his own deeds and motives. 9. Verse 14. Aflaha, i.e. successful achievement of the cherished goal, attainment of the eternal bliss or salvation. The purification of the self means to be pure and clean against any disobedience or rebellion against any of God's commands, to keep the soul always in submission to the divine will and never allowing it to get astray from the path of righteousness and piety. Verse 16. Man is often beguiled by the powerful attraction front the enjoyment of the pleasures of this world, which are the common tools of Satan to lead man astray. Verse 18. Every scripture that was revealed prior to the Holy Quran to the earlier apostles contained only the truth about God, be that in any language, for the apostles were sent in the languages of the respective people. C. 14. For and naturally the scriptures given to the apostles must have been in the language spoken and understood by the respective people. The contents from verse 14 downwards, i.e. it is the gist of what all the prophets came or in man's attitude towards their teachings. AP. Verse 19. The book given to Abraham has not been definitely named. According to the Old Testament also, Abraham is recognized as one of the apostles of God. 10. Mr. G. H. Flux has brought out a translation of Greek text, In the Name of the Testament of Abraham, published by the CPCK, London in 1927. The Greek version might be a translation from the Hebrew language. Commentary. Verse 1. Geshia, i.e. that which covers or overshadows or overwhelms, i.e. a terrible thing or event which confounds the people and sends them off their senses. The day of judgment will be a state of such reality that what we think and see in this life will have been lost in our realization of the reality which will be laid bare before us. 8. The day of judgment. The enjoyments referred to in this surah are all figurative presentations of the heavenly entertainment in the heavenly assemblies of the souls. AP. Verse 2. The feeling of humiliation in a man is manifested only on his face. On the day of judgment, the disbelievers and the wicked will be humiliated for their arrogance and pride. Their faces will be awful and terror-stricken and downcast. Verse 3-5. Those who were striving in the life here in hostility against the godly ones. AP. Verse 6. Zeri, a kind of dry thorny shrub, so bitter in taste that none of the animals even go near it, it is also loathsome in appearance. This tree will be the food of the fellows in hell. Verse 8-16. The state of bliss which the righteous will be placed in. Verse 17-20. Man's attention is invited to the four things which he sees every day. 1. The camel, the ship of the desert. The usefulness of the animal, its build and its peculiar traits. 2. The skies, with their unlimited heights, their wonderful bodies and their mystic functioning. With the tremendous control over their regulated activities. 3. The mountains, their huge sizes. Their fixed immovable stand, the usefulness of its material, the stone. 4. The earth with its extent, being a globe yet serving a wide plain, and its amenability to the growth of the essential produce out of it, and the great store of minerals, metals and the liquids treasured in it. Ma translates Ibal to mean clouds, and in his notes refers to Tajul Aris in some Arabic lexicon, saying it is the view of Abu Amr ibn al-Ala, one of the well-known early reciters of Quran, but Majema al-Bayan mentions the name of the same Abu Amr here as one of the exponents of the passage who gives the reason why God has referred to the creation of the camel here and does not give any indication of Abu Amr's interpreting Ibal as clouds, nor any other lexiconist. Even the modern standard Arabic dictionary, al-Manjid, does not give any such interpretation, although Tajul Aris is one of the sources of al-Manjid. However, there is no justification whatsoever for the interpretation of Ibal into clouds. There are 2 questions here. 1. The connection of the verse 18 to 20 to the previous verses. 2. What is the justification of bringing these sentences into conjunctive clauses? The answer to number 1 is that it is connected with the first verse of the surah in conveying a warning, and the answer to number 2 is that these 4 wonders of nature referred to in the verses were the most familiar scenes to the people of the driest regions of the earth. The camel and its wonderful structure and utility. In the desert with the heavens raised over it, the raised mountains, the plain desert, being within the observation of everyone while the other sceneries of nature might not be available to all. Thus, Quran draws the attention of man to the simplest verses of the book of nature, showing that even there are sufficient signs to prove the purposefulness of creation. AP. Verse 21 to 22. The duty of an apostle of God is only to preach the faith and teach the people its practice and show them the right ways of life. It is not for the apostle of God to watch the people against their wickedness, or to punish them. Musatir, here is used in sense of compelling one to any action, i.e. Compeller 9, as otherwise the prophet and his successors represent God as his vicegerent to execute the divine legislative will, and it is in absolute conformity with it. AP. The holy prophet sent for the young man and said, Glad tidings unto thee, O young man, for whosoever honors the sanctity of those 10 days, it will be equal to his liberating 10 slaves daily, and fasting consecutively for 2 days, is equal to sacrificing 100 camels in the way of the Lord and giving 100 horses to defend the faith in God. He who goes to inquire about a sick man, it will be equal to go enquiring the welfare of an apostle of God. He who takes part in the funeral of any one during these days, it will be equal to attend the funeral of an apostle of God or a martyr. And he who feeds anyone in these 10 days, it will be equal to feeding an apostle of God. Besides the mystic importance of the day and the 10 nights given above, on the authority of the Holy Prophet, there is the fact that a mere mention of the break of a day may sound too simple and without any significance, but those who reflect intelligently on the phenomenon of the daybreak and passing away of the night, with regard to the functioning of the earth in harmony with the other heavenly bodies in the solar system, and the great change in time effected regularly every day without fail, resurrecting the world once again for the fulfillment of the great plan of the Almighty Author of the universe, will know the significance of the occasion. The commentators have different views regarding the dawn, 10 nights and the passing of nights. Most of them are of the opinion that reference is to the pilgrimage period from the break of the dawn of the first day of Zul-Hajjah, up to the 30th night of the month, but the point is that from the 1st up to the 8th of Zul-Hajjah, no particular rite is to be performed therein. The Umrah Ultimatu can be performed in one of these days or even before the commencement of the month of Zul-Hajjah. Some have taken the reference to the month of Ramadan and its last 10 nights that is also arbitrary. Some have given a different interpretation of esoteric character, referring to the 14 infallible ones of the house of the Holy Prophet. Fajr, the dawn, the Holy Prophet, and Shaf, i.e. 2, the 2 brothers Hassan and Husain, and water, Fatima, 10 nights, Ali and the other imams of the house, who have been termed Here is nights because, in spite of their being in the highest esteem with God, most of the people were in darkness about them. The passing away, night, would be a prophecy about the ending of the period of darkness and al-appearance of the last Imam. This interpretation has no authentic support from the al-Bayt. AP. Verse 3. This is another mystic expression. It may mean all things, for in them are the even and odd ones, or it may mean the opposites in sexes and energies and the other qualities in men, material and the natural phenomena active in the universe. Verse 4. The state invites attention to the great change in the effect of the daily functioning of the heavenly bodies, brought on earth regularly in a system ordained by the Almighty Creator Lord of the universe. Verse 5. This verse clearly indicates that the above expressions are purely mystic for the deeper consideration of those endowed with higher intellect, to know the secrets treasured in them and hold them for the proper use by them in their endeavor for spiritual progress. Hal, here stands for assertion, similar to Surah 76. Higr, controlling power, relating to that aspect of intellect which prevents man from wishful and fanciful thinking. AP. Verse 6-7. This is a reference to what befell the people, Ad of the city Aram, who were the people of the Arab antiquity, the Ad and Thamud. They were powerful but rebelled against God's laws and were persistent in their arrogance and godlessness. The people were of tall stature and were proud of their strength and power. 8. Verse 8. The story of Ad is said to be that Ad, son of Awz, son of Aram, son of Sam, son of Noah. The people were called after Ad. Ad had two sons, Shaddad and Shadid. Shadid died and Shaddad became the ruler in the earth, with several governors under him, and claimed himself to be God, and his people had to worship him. God sent an apostle to admonish Shaddad, but he did not amend his faith and conduct. The apostle said that if he gets obedient to God he would be admitted to paradise. Shaddad asked the apostle what was meant by paradise. The apostle gave a description of the blissful place and the enjoyments that are there for the righteous. Shaddad said that he also could prepare one like it, and exhausting all his resources prepared a vast garden with special attractions and a large number of beautiful buildings with beautiful women therein. When the garden got ready, Shaddad named it Aram and started to go and see it. As he approached the outer gate of it, and only one step of his he had put across the threshold, a violent shout made him shiver with dread, and he found a dreadful face before him and said that he was the angel of death come there to take his soul out of his body. Shaddad pleaded for a respite just to see the garden, but the angel said no. Now and here Shaddad wanted to get down from his horse, and when one foot of his was in the stirrup and the other was about to touch the ground, his soul was out of his body. The garden was caused by God to disappear. Ms. The city of the people was so beautiful and so great that there did not exist the like of it anywhere in the world. Verse 9. The Thamud, used to carve buildings out of the huge rocks in the mountains. 9. The apostle sent to them was Salah. Reference to Pharaoh in the fall he met. 10. Verse 10. Pharaoh used to kill everyone who believed in the true God and disbelieved in his godhead, by nailing them to the ground or a post. Hence, he is called the nailer. Among the victims were Eskil's wife with her 6 children, and Asia the Pharaoh's wife. All were martyred. Eskil, who is popularly known as the Momin al-Pharaon, i.e. the believer among the people of Pharaoh, escaped into the mountains. Verse 11-13. Generalize the previous examples, meaning, anyone who commits inordinacy and commits civil disturbance and creates mischief in the society, and in verse 13, gives the consequence, and in verse 14, warns man to be careful, to beware that God is vigilant. AP. Verse 14. Though God's punishment for the disbelievers and the wicked might have been delayed, the delay is only a respite. It never means that God has neglected or left the rebellious ones once for all. It is His grace that does not make haste in the punishment, and when ultimately it has to come, it surely comes. Verse 15. It is commonly seen in the world that man, in spite of God's grace and mercy done to him and the bounties showered on man, when given prosperity, forgets the beneficent Lord, the giver of all his wealth and happiness, and gets puffed up with his prosperity and thinks that what was given to him was his due and will last forever. Verse 16. And when man is given in the measure, restricted to his actual needs or according to the situation, circumstanced by himself, but not up to his own lust and expectation, he is depressed in the adversity, putting the blame upon God